Record. Thank you for letting me know. All right, hi everyone. Just to reintroduce myself, so many of you already know me, and some of you, this may be your first time meeting me. My name is Morgan Bartholic. I am the Business Development Manager for Serenity House of Clallam County, and I am the coordinator for our county for the point in time, or otherwise known as the pit count. So for today's meeting, um, I don't have many updates. I don't have any updates from Commerce actually. Um, what I wanted to use today for was to just do one final review of how to fill out the forms, which I know many of us already know how to do. One of the things that Commerce talked about this year was making sure um, that information was given again within the week before the pit, just to make sure everything is fresh in everyone's mind. So I wanted to go through those again. If you were in the meeting on the 9th, you will remember that I had some errors in the example forms that I had for everyone. I have corrected those examples. You should have the corrected examples. I should have sent those to you already. I will resend those again. Um, but I will share my screen so that everyone can see, and I'm going to do more up close on the forms this time. So let me do my entire screen. Yes, share. All right, so everyone should be able to see my screen. Oh, you can see my email. Well, that's nice. Let me get into perfect. All right, so I'm going to go through, just go through the forms really quick. I'll start with our sheltered survey. Some of you may encounter, while many of the people that you will encounter when you're doing the count next Thursday will be most likely unsheltered. Those who are not staying in emergency shelters or transitional housing. You might run into folks who did stay at the shelter, who are staying at the shelter on the 30th. Um, so use this form for anyone who is staying at either our Serenity House shelter, any of the other emergency shelters within the county, or any of the transitional housing programs that we have within the county. This will help if you encounter these people. It will just help in making sure that they get counted, that they are in the system. Um, for the 30th, I can cross-check this with our attendants at the shelter for bed nights. So it's always just helpful just in case, as it helps with deduplication. Um, so going through the form, where did the household sleep on the night of the 30th? Let's say that they stayed at our shelter, so you would mark emergency shelter and then put the program name Serenity House Shelter. For these next questions, has any adult in household or minor head of household been continuously without housing for a year or more? Yes. So since we answered this question, yes, we technically do not have to answer these next two questions, as this is helping to, the first question is stating chronic homelessness. So moving on, we don't need to answer has any 2A or 2B. Question 3, their last known permanent location. If we can get that, that is great. It helps just with our tracking and seeing where people are congregating within our county and where they are from. So for this example, this person was in Forks, so we get the city of Forks, the state of Washington, and then the zip code 98331. For some people, we may not be able, especially if they're out of state, they may not remember the zip code of that area, which is totally fine. It is not the most important thing to get the zip code, but it's just helpful in the long run. So moving on to this next section, the household information. Household type. So our household is a household without children, but you may come across a household with children or a household that is with children only, which is under 18. We rarely see households with only children come up in the pit count. It does happen every so often, but it is not something that is extremely common. For this example, this household is not fleeing domestic violence, so we said no. We will go to an example in just a little bit where the answer is yes, and that changes how you fill out the rest of the form, which is explained here, but I will explain that when we get to that consent refused form. So we want to get as much of this information as we can on this front page. So we get the first and last name of Bob Dylan, who is their self. We got their, so sorry. We got their full date of birth if we can. So Bob 520 of 1979. We select, for gender, we select all that apply. So for my example of Bob, Bob is a man. Under race and ethnicity, again, it's select all that apply. Never just assume, always ask these questions, because you might think someone is solely white or solely something else. And we want to make sure that we correctly collect, that was hard to say, correctly collect all of this information and make sure that they are giving the answers. So for our example, Bob is white. Disabling barriers, again, select all that apply. Just to be specific, the physical disability does need to be a permanent disability, not something that is short-term, but something that is long-term. So in Bob's case, Bob has a chronic health condition. And then did Bob ever serve, was he ever active duty in the US military? And this is, for Bob, is a yes. So moving on to the second page. So like I said, everything on the first page is really the most important because that is the main data that Commerce and HUD are looking for. And these next questions, while they are important and they help us as a county and also as the state understand what could be leading our area into homelessness or into housing instability, it is not, if you're having, you may have a harder time with some people that you survey, and they may not have the attention span to get through some of this, or they might be needing to go places. So if you can get to these last two questions, great. If not, is totally okay. So circumstances leading to their housing status, click all, check all that apply to the household. So as always, they do have the option to not answer or they don't know. In Bob's case, we talked about Bob having his chronic health condition, so his physical health and his disability played a factor in his housing status. Because of his chronic health condition, he had medical costs, which led him, with his chronic health condition, he lost his job and was unemployed, and also that led to his eviction from his housing. And then sources of household income and benefits, again, check all that apply. For this example, I chose that Bob was doing under the table or informal work. But again, this can be any or all of these. Again, check all that apply. Moving on, so here's the release of information and informed consent. So this is, in explaining, this is for the client, for those that we survey, to say, yes, I want my information put into the Homeless Management Information System, shortened to HMIS or HIMIS, depending how people want to say it. This is where all of the data is collected and then extrapolated by Commerce and HUD to create their final report for the pit count. And so what you'll need to do is go through this with them. Just let them know that this will be put into, it is a secure system, that none of this information will be going out to anyone that it's not supposed to, that it will only be used for the purposes of the pit count going forward. And then you will want to get Bob's signature. I wasn't able to do a signature font for whatever reason. So I just typed it out, but otherwise it would be Bob's hand signature. Clearly print or write Bob's name, So Bob Dylan, and then you will put the date, which will most likely be the 30th. You have up until February 6th, that full week, to do extended count. And all you would do to just change the date from the 30th, obviously the day that you're doing the count, and it's just the most important that you ask, where did they sleep on the 30th of January, as that is the day that is designated for pit. Then you will write your name. I use my name, Morgan Barthlick, and then I put my initials, MRB. So moving on to an unsheltered count. So this is the one that you will most likely encounter throughout the count next week. So it's a little different, mainly the same. It's really just this top section where it has location where household was surveyed. For this example, I used Peabody Street in Port Angeles. To reiterate something that I said last time, it's helpful for us to have the location of where they were surveyed. One, it gives us an idea of potentially where homeless in our area can be found, so we can do outreach to them, and for our outreach organizations. It also is just helpful with planning for future years. There might be an area where we haven't gotten any people that we won't get any people this year, that maybe we won't send as many people to survey next year, but also this just depends. Every year slightly changes. So specifying where it was, so Peabody Street, and then the area. For another example, let's say you were doing the survey over in Squim, and you ended up doing a survey at the Squim Walmart. So if you put Walmart and then Squim, that would be perfect. Current city and town. For this example, Bob is currently in Port Angeles, and that is where they are currently living. However, you could have someone who is over in Squim, and they get counted, and they might usually stay in Port Angeles, or they might be heading back to Port Angeles later that day. So always making sure that with this current city and town, it's where they currently stay the night. Pit location, where did the household sleep on the night of January 30th, 2025? For this example, Bob slept out of doors. But again, within the HUD definition, it could also be a vehicle, an abandoned building, or an RV boat lacking any of the following amenities: water, restroom, heat, ability to cook hot food, ability to bathe. And these three over here, the temporarily living with family, jail, and hospital, detox, or other facility, we can check these. These do not meet the HUD definition of homelessness, so they won't count towards the very final numbers. But I do think it is something that if we do run into these people, I don't want to just say, don't do the survey with them. Keep doing the survey with them. It is helpful for us in the county to know how many people on this night, are temporarily living with friends and family, who was in jail or who has been in a detox facility, things like that. In the chat. Yes, Brandy, answering your meeting, this is going to be pretty much the same information as the last meeting. It's just a reiteration, and I wanted to make sure that in this meeting that the form was really spelled out more clearly. I don't know that everyone was able to really see it the last time. I realized how small the graphic was when I shared it, so I just want to make sure that everyone can see it nice and clearly. So moving on into the housing questions, like I said, if you answer yes to this question, you usually don't need to question one. You don't need to answer the other questions. However, in this case, Bob, they have not been continuously living without housing for a year or more. So we move on to 2A, where we answered yes. That they've been without housing 4 or more times in the last 3 years. And then we also answered yes to do these times without housing added together amount to a year or more. Yes. Again, We got his last known permanent location if we can, with the zip code and everything. This time it is a household with children, and they are not fleeing domestic violence. So we just get all the same things again and all that apply. So we got first and last names. We got the relationship of Susie Dillon to Bob, who is the child. We got their birth date, gender, race, and then any disabling barriers or conditions. In this one, Bob has two compared to the last one. So he also has a substance use disorder this time around, and then service in the military again. Same things here again. If we can get to these questions, these extended questions, great. If not, not the biggest deal. The one difference for if we have a child as well, we just write down if they're under the age of 18, we just print their first and last names and then have the parent sign. So it's all the same as in the last one. So moving on to this version is going to be a consent refused version. So as you're going through the survey, all the same questions from are there. So we answered Peabody Street, in Port Angeles, outdoors, answered no to question 1, yes to questions 2A and 2B, and we got their last known permanent location. It's another household with children. And this time, when we ask if they are fleeing domestic violence, if anyone in the household answers yes to this question, the entire household becomes consent refused, and we do not collect name, date of birth, or race and ethnicity, and we do not have them sign the release of information. So just to show in more depth, so their names will become consent refused. And that's how they will show up in HMIS. We still give what their relationship is. Instead of date of birth, we will give their age. So we just ask them, how old are you? So Bob is 45 and Susie is 12. So we just put 45 and 12. We collect the gender. So man, boy if child, woman, girl if child. We do not collect race and ethnicity at all. And then we would grab the same things, disabling barriers and conditions, veteran status. And then we can also grab, again, circumstances leading to their housing status and sources of household income and benefits. So the other difference on this, so when we get to the release of information and informed consent, you will not have them sign. You won't write down any names. What you will do is you will fill it out with the date, if that's the 30th, up until the 6th. You'll put your name, your initials, and then you will initial consent refused over here where it says client refused consent, agency staff initials. You will put yours there. I will also send this out to everyone. I do believe I already sent this out to everybody, but just so everyone else will have it. This is a little cheat sheet that Commerce made that I find really helpful, especially for our first-time counters, people who are newer to the pick count. It kind of goes over in depth kind of what I did, but they have a little bit more clarity. It's a really great little 4-pager that doesn't take very much time to read, and it's very helpful in the long run. So let me go back into here, and I'll stop sharing my screen for a moment. And I had another thing in the chat. Okay. I'm still working on the locations for the pit. Thank you to everyone who has sent in where they would like to do the pit count. I'm going to put the SurveyMonkey link in the chat for those who haven't filled it out. I know I sent it in the email yesterday, but just so it is there in the chat right now, just easily available for everyone. I should have those figured out by tomorrow, I am hoping. At latest, I will have them to everybody on Monday. Um, but it should be by tomorrow afternoon. I will have that to everyone. Um, do I have any questions from anyone? Feel free to raise your hand or just unmute or put it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I do have some questions, Morgan. This is Jen from the Squim Food Bank.
Hi, Jen.
Hey. So when you say, I think we've put in our, I think we did the survey. So
Mhm.
when you say you're going to get that out to us on Monday, what would you be getting out to us?
So this would be for so like for your organization, you won't be the at the food bank, but for other organizations who are going to be going out into the community, it would
Mm-hmm.
be other locations throughout the community where
Ah,
people
okay.
will be going to count. So like my
Okay.
staff from our housing resource centers here in PA and Squim, they will have areas that they will be going out to within Port Angeles and across the county. So I'm
Okay.
separating them out. Um,
Gotcha.
so that's what I mean by the locations. A lot of people have already put in the survey where they were going to be counting anyway, or where they plan to be counting. So that makes it really easy. I just plug and drop people in. I
Gotcha.
just want to make sure that I'm getting um, the breadth of the county, which is one of the things that's, especially in a rural area like ours, that is very long.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of space to cover.
Right.
And
And
so that's one of the things I just want to make sure that we have people all the way out from Blinn, all
yeah.
the way out to the farthest on the west end, out to La Push and all of that.
Okay. And that actually somewhat relates to my next question, which is, so we, as you know, we won't be doing it on the 30th because that's
Hmm.
not a distribution day for us. So we'll be
Yes.
doing it on the Friday, the day after,
Hmm.
and the following Monday.
Hmm.
So it's completely possible that folks that we're talking to will have already been counted. Is it relevant for us to find that out?
Yes, that is potentially something that could happen. And that would be in your initial conversations, especially even on the day, we know, people do move around throughout the
Right.
day. So we could
Mm-hmm.
have someone who's counted down by the Gateway Transit Center
Mm-hmm.
in Port Angeles, and
Mm-hmm.
then later in the day, they're up by Safeway,
Mm-hmm.
and we have another team out there
Mm-hmm.
who could potentially duplicate that survey.
Right.
And so one of the things would be in starting the conversation with them, what we're doing. Have you already been counted? Have you
Great.
participated in this survey already?
Okay.
And if they have, great. And just be like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad that you have already participated. Thank you for participating. And if they say no, then great. Let's get you counted if you would like to get counted.
Okay, great. And I appreciated in your last presentation, the last time we met, you had some language around not assuming. So when you're
Hmm.
approaching someone, so it occurred, this is the first time I will have been doing this at the
Hmm.
food bank. And so it occurs to me that it couldn't hurt just to encounter each visitor. I generally check in with each visitor in some form. And who, even if I feel like I completely know this doesn't apply to them, to just check in with each person and not
Yep.
make that assumption. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm. And I
Okay.
think that will also, like you're saying, if you just do it with everyone,
Mm-hmm.
then it won't feel targeted
Normalizes
when
it.
you have
Yeah.
certain, if you have, especially if you know that this client is, it won't make them feel targeted, like I'm
Right.
only coming to you because I know this.
Right.
It'll be
Right.
like, we are asking everyone just to make sure. And oh, you
Right.
are? Well, if you would like to participate, great.
Okay. And then the last question, um, obviously we won't know until it happens, but I'm projecting if I were someone in this situation and I was paying at all attention to the news right now, that I would be a little bit worried that some of the, we maybe last year we could say, rest assured, this information isn't going to go anywhere. We don't want it to go.
Mhm.
That seems a little more tenuous right now with everything that's going on. But can we really say with great assurance, this
Yes.
is just for this count, none of it goes anywhere else?
Yeah, it will go into the homeless management information system, HMIS, and which is a secure database.
Okay.
That Commerce has worked for many years. HMIS is also something that's used across the nation in
Mm-hmm.
different forms. Um, and security is one of the big keys, which is one of the reasons that we do consent refused as well, and that there are
Gotcha.
certain aspects
Okay.
that we don't ask for, so that
Mm-hmm.
should, if something were to happen, if someone were to be able to get into the system, which people can't just get into the system, there's a whole process to be able to use HMIS. Some of
Mm-hmm.
you have, some people on this call maybe have done that training before, and have interaction with it. It's a very detailed process.
Okay. Great.
Um, so there is a lot of security within it. And one of the things that I do is once I get all the forms live for me in a locked filing cabinet that no one else
Mm.
has access to except for me, that just stays in my
Okay.
office.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Morgan. I really appreciate all the information.
You are so welcome.
Hey Morgan, it's Kat. I have a quick question.
Yeah, Cap.
So I think in that survey it asked how many forms we might need. Is that something I'm remembering wrong, or do we need to pick those up?
It did ask for how many forms you would need. I'm happy to print those out and bring them to you. You can also stop by our admin building to pick those up as well, whatever is most convenient for you and your team.
Okay,
And that
perfect.
can
We'll
happen
probably
any,
pick them up.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying we'll probably pick them up.
Okay, that's perfect. And what I can do is if you just let me know a day when you want to, I mean, I will have forms available for all the teams who ask for them at the front desk. Um, that will be labeled in a manila folder for each organization, so that you can come pick them up. If anyone would like me to drop them off, feel free to just send me an email, serenity@serenityhouseclallam.org, and I can figure out a way to get those to you, whether that's I drop them off, or if you're, say in Squim, I can maybe get my Housing Resource Center site manager, Cherie, out there to take those to whoever needs them.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Did anyone else have any questions or thoughts about anything?
Hey, my name's Greg, and I work with PBH. And I was just wondering, how many hours, I guess, and like what the time frame is, I guess.
Great. Great question. So the time frame, the usual time frame that we do for the count is just usual working hours for every organization, which is that like 8 to 5 range. I usually split that up depending on the area. Some areas I will have a team that goes in the morning and then a team that goes in the afternoon. And it all depends on what your availability is during the day. If you're able to do, let's say I already have these appointments scheduled in the afternoon, but I'm available for 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours in the morning. That's great. Um, it's within the time frame that you usually work is what I usually use for the pick count. Um,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, just to keep it easy. If, some people do work overnight, so I wouldn't suggest if you are going to try and do counts at night, um, anytime you do the count, you should have a second with you. We should be going out in at least teams of two, just for safety reasons. Um, but if you're planning to, if you're working an overnight and you want to do counting at night, that would be especially be a time to maybe to have a second with you. Um, but mainly within that the normal working hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 4, that range.
I know that another question I was curious. There was used to be like some sort of incentive given to people in the community to participate, like
Hmm.
hotel stays. And I was wondering, is there anything like that going on, or any? not only just incentive, but I guess like awareness or advertising that has happened for this event?
So for the pit, I've been getting this out to all the organizations to let their clients know. I've been in contact with PDN to get a little like press release out sometime next week to talk about pit, just so that the awareness is there. In terms of incentives, um, the Serenity House team is working on having little incentive packages for clients that we encounter. Excuse me. That include toiletries, um, a bottle of water or a water bottle, other little things like hand warmers, little snacks, just as a, thank you for giving us your time. Here are some things that you can use. Um, And then we can also offer other resources that we have, especially for those who are unsheltered, who may not have stayed at our shelter before. We can always offer them um, a stay at the shelter, that kind of stuff. Any organization, so sorry, excuse me, um, is more than welcome to do any kind of incentive uh, for the clients that they interact, for the surveyors that they interact with. Um, we find that toiletry bags, a little I don't want to say gift basket. Um, these little incentive bags have been very useful in the past for us. And most of the people that we survey are very thankful and very happy to get the things that we have in those bags.
Right on. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So if no one has any other questions or thoughts, I will end this meeting. Thank you for your time. If you have any thoughts, questions, anything that comes up, even right after I close out this meeting, you're like, oh, Morgan, I forgot to ask you this, feel free to email me. Um, the easiest email to get to me is serenity@serenityhouseclallam.org. I'm just going to put that in the chat really quick. That is the easiest way to get to me. My name is long and sometimes easy to misspell. And so I find this to be just quick and easy. People usually remember it a lot easier than my full name. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to email me. You can also give me a call. I'm putting my number in the chat. 360-452-7973. That is my desk phone. On the day of the count, I will have this number being forwarded to my cell phone, just in case I am out and about and anyone needs anything. Just makes it easy on the day of. Um, I can always, let's say someone's like, oh, well, I've run out of pit count forms and I need some more. Could you bring those to me? I can't make it all the way to the admin because XYZ reasons. And I will happily grab forms and I will bring them to you, especially if you're in Port Angeles. It's really easy. I will also make sure that there are going to be forms available at the Port Angeles Housing Resource Center out on 18th Street. Should you want to grab them the day of, I'll have to do timing for our SQUIM Housing Resource Center because our staff will also be doing counting that day. But I can see about having someone there to be able to pick up forms from. For the West End, I will have staff going out to the West End that day, and what I will do is I will send them with extra forms in case anyone on the West End needs them, and we can send those out. If you would like to also print your own forms, you are more than welcome to do that. I can make sure. Yes, April, I will, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to start an email to you and make sure that you get those forms. You are more than welcome to print them out yourself. I'm going to be printing in bulk anyway, which is one of the reasons that I always offer to print forms for people. But if you're, if you have the capabilities to print for yourself, by all means, feel free to. That's really all I've got. Again, thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for all that you do within our community for the most vulnerable. It's really what we do is needed in our community. What we do is hard, and it's not always the easiest thing, but I find what we do to be very rewarding in the long run. So I just want to say thank you for your time, your effort, your energy, your talents. Everything that you do makes this event and the information that we collect and what we are able to do as a county successful. So thank you all for your time. Feel free to head out, and I will chat with you all within this next week. And looking forward to counting. So I will chat with you all soon. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thanks, Morgan.